Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Dear students, Rao's IAS Prelims Test Series 2021 is a complete testing and revision course for the upcoming prelims examination. The program will help you prepare for UPSC prelims through a step-up approach. It is a meticulously designed study plan to organize your preparation and keep you on track towards covering the prelims GS and CSAT syllabus extensively from NCERT to the advanced level. The goal of our Prelims Test Series 2021 program is to exhaustively cover all standard sources of study material, including NCERT, with a study plan to test you at par with UPSC level of questions, thereby improving your chances of clearing the prelims examination. To give multiple revision of the entire syllabus from the perspective of civil service prelims pattern. The test series program will also give you the final revision of all topics and themes before the examination through QIP videos and prelims compass notes. The QIP videos or Quality Improvement Program videos are for speedy revision of all important topics for the upcoming prelims examination. QIP videos are kind of crash course for the prelims examination. And prelims compass are 8 subject-wise prelims compilation of all static and current affair topics important for the upcoming prelims. Rao's IAS Prelims Test Series 2021 will include topics test, testing the concept of candidate. It will include thematic test on both the concept and the current affair of that particular theme. It will also include current affair tests covering the monthly current affairs. And there will be full-length test before the final exam to simulate you for the D-Day. There is a link in the description of this video. You can click on the link for registration and to also check out the demo QIP videos. We shall take up the discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 24th November 2020. We shall pick up important articles from the perspective of civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. The articles that we have picked for discussion today have been tabulated in front of you and the time stamping for the same has been given in the description section. This article is from page number 2. It has been titled Plea for Paid Leave During Menstruation. Actually, Delhi Labour Union has filed a petition in Delhi High Court demanding for paid leave during menstruation. The Delhi High Court has asked the central government and the Delhi government to take a call on the issue and to consider it as a representation. Meaning, the central government and the Delhi government will have to send a representative to the court to put out their view on the issue. The court has asked for a representation because the Delhi Labour Union has raised many pertinent issues in the court. First of all, it is against the right of women. Under Article 21, the right of a dignified life. The absence of proper facilities and opportunity to maintain hygiene for women at workplace is against their right to dignified work. That is also against their right to life. The absence of such facility of paid leave during menstruation also shows that we as a society do not recognize the emotional, physiological, hormonal, psychological suffering of women. The labor union also has showed that gradually many countries and the private sector, they are moving towards giving paid leave to their women employees. For example, Zomato and Culture Machine, they have started giving 2 days of paid leave per month to women employees. So why that cannot be done in the government sector? Based on these arguments, the labor union has demanded that there must be paid leave for 4 days a month. And if women employees are doing work during menstruation, if they want to, then they must be given overtime. But the court, of course, is not very sure of the capability of government to provide it. That is why the court has asked for a representation. Before we delve deeper into the issue and discuss it from various perspectives, the issue of paid leave during menstruation and the issue of menstruation in general, let me tell you a few things that will keep coming up during the course of discussion. First and foremost, menstruation is a perfectly natural, healthy biological process. It is not a disease, it is not a disability, it is not a sickness. The pain during menstruation, the period pain, could be excruciatingly painful. It could be so severe that some women can pass off during the course of pain. They can become unconscious. The doctors are of the opinion that the menstrual cramps can be as painful as heart attack. And over 25 million women in India suffer from endometriosis, the excessive growth of tissues in the uterus. So it's the issue of dignified life, it's the issue of equity for women. These conditions of course hamper their ability to do daily activities and their performance at workplace. So there is the issue of employment opportunity for women as well. But simultaneously, I must also tell you one thing that is used as a shield for not giving paid leave to women employees. The thing is that all women do not feel the same level of discomfort. The range of discomfort can vary from slight discomfort to severely, excruciatingly high level of pain. It is estimated that nearly 20% of women suffer from high uncomfortable symptoms. That includes muscle cramps, nausea, fever, weakness, irritation, etc. But the argument that people make out of this is, if you start giving paid leave for menstruation, it will be misused. Because women who can comfortably work during menstruation will also take advantage of the leave, and that will be discriminatory for men. I will discuss the issue of menstruation and paid leave during menstruation from the perspective of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4. And by the virtue of that, I'll also show you how you can look at any particular issue from different prism. Let's begin by analyzing the issue from the perspective of GS paper 2. First of all, let me give you arguments that people generally make for not giving paid leave during menstruation. From the perspective of Polity, if you see, the argument is that it will be discriminatory for men. It will violate the right to equality. One can be ignorant enough to say that periods are weakening for only some women or some percentage of women. Many women are capable of functioning at full capacity even during periods. So in this regard, the menstruation leave will be misused. Such an initiative can also create prejudice against women employees in the eyes of employer. Additionally, the argument is that sick leave can be used during menstruation, or you can increase the number of sick leaves for both men and women, and those increased number of sick leaves can be used by women. In that way, it will not be discriminatory for men because both men and women will enjoy the same number of sick leaves. The counter argument is that it does not violate the right to equality, because Article 15(3) empowers the state to make special provision for women and children, which is an exception to the general rule laid down under Article 15(1), the right to equality. It has been laid down by the Supreme Court in the Government of Andhra Pradesh versus BP Vijay Kumar case 1995 that special provision for women in Article 15(3) means that the provision which the state may make to improve women's participation in all activities under the supervision and control of the state. It can be in the form of either affirmative action or reservation. By the virtue of this judgment, menstrual leave policies like other women's right legislation, for example, Maternity Benefit Act 1961, the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005, just like these legislations, the paid leave for menstruation will also not infringe Article 15(1) of the Constitution. Further, Article 42 demands that the state shall make provision for securing just and humane condition of work and maternity relief. So just and humane condition at workplace is a requirement, is a constitutional mandate. That will include toilets, privacy for maintaining proper hygiene during menstruation, and that will also include leave during menstruation. There is also an issue of legal inconsistency. Many legislations like Factory Act 1948, Maternity Benefit Act 1961, these legislation talks about the protective measures especially for women. It talks about various aspects of health, leave, working hours, working conditions, etc. But these legislations are silent on menstrual condition of women. There is another aspect of legal inconsistency. See, Maternity Benefit Act 1961 gives maternity leave, but maternity is a choice and menstruation is an inescapable monthly biological process. It is natural, it will happen. When we are recognizing the special requirement of women during maternity, which is occasional and is by choice, we must also recognize the condition of women during menstruation, which is recurring and natural compulsory. In this regard, you can also talk about certain cases, national or international. In India, by the way, you must know, Bihar is the only state which provides 2 days of special leave every month for menstruation purpose. Internationally, there are many countries like Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, Taiwan. They provide menstrual leave. Japan provides it since 1947. Indonesia has recently started it, but these countries provide 2 days of menstrual leave. The demand in the beginning, as we have seen by Delhi Labour Union, is of 4 days. You must also be aware that there is one Menstruation Benefit Bill pending in the Parliament. It was introduced as a private member bill in 2017 in Lok Sabha, but it has not been passed yet. The bill also demands 2 days of paid leave every month. The bill, if passed in this form, will be applicable both for public and private sectors. The bill also calls for better facilities for rest and for maintaining hygiene at workplace. The bill also talks about for flexibility for taking some time off during work at workplace. And the bill also talks about giving benefit to female students of class 8th and above. But the bill is in limbo right now because it has not passed in Lok Sabha and has not been sent to Raj Sabha. Now let us discuss the same issue from the perspective of GS Paper 1. In the syllabus of GS Paper 1, in the society section, you will find topics like salient features of Indian society, from where you will pick patriarchy, gender bias. There are topics population and associated issues. In population, you study demography. In population, you also study the distribution of various sections in the society. So you can talk about the percentage of literacy, the percentage of girls who get menstruation hygiene, the percentage of girls who leave schooling or job due to menstrual issues and things like that. There's a topic poverty and developmental issues. And we will touch on social empowerment. In paper 2, we were talking about constitutional provisions, legislations, the governance aspect. Here we have to bring in societal aspect. Menstruation is a natural, healthy biological process for women, but it is still considered as a taboo in Indian society. That is a societal aspect. The effect of it is very brutal on women. Menstruation is associated with the onset of puberty in girls, and many a times it brings restrictions. It sets new norms and rules for girls. It may lead to isolation. It calls for changed expectation in the behavior of girls by the society. Due to menstruation and due to considering it as a taboo, the day-to-day activities of girls, they are severely hampered. And all these happens because of prevalence of hegemonic patriarchy, the gender bias in our Indian society. During menstruation, girls and women, many a times, they are not allowed to enter kitchen or the places of worship like temple. It is considered as a taboo, and the reason for taboo? Illiteracy, poverty, lack of awareness. And these places women at high risk of infection and critical health implications. Now from the population section, you can talk about distribution of population in various ways. For example, I'm giving you a study of UNICEF of 2011. According to this, only 13% of girls in India are aware of menstruation before menarche, the first onset of menstruation. 60% of girls missed school on account of menstruation. 79% girls faces low confidence due to menstruation. The report said that 44% were embarrassed and humiliated over the restrictions imposed on them. Therefore, menstruation adversely impacts women's education, equality, maternal and child health, covering the social development topic mentioned in the syllabus. So in this paper, you will not look at things from the legal prism, but from the perspective of attitude prevailing in the society. In order to deal with the problem, we will not talk so much of legislations and constitutional articles, although you can mention them, but you will talk about the societal aspect more. For example, you have to have social awareness about such critical social issues. You can give example from the sociological things, for example, movies or literatures or puppetry or nukkad natak, any such thing. You can mention about the recent movie Padman. You can also mention about a documentary that was released recently and won award, period, end of sentence. These movies and documentaries highlighted the stigma surrounding menstruation and encouraged people to not see it as a taboo. You can talk about the government initiatives for social empowerment. You can talk about menstrual education, menstrual hygiene, and the wash infrastructure, water, sanitation, and hygiene, especially in rural region. You can mention oxo biodegradable sanitary napkins and the need for promoting small-scale sanitary pad manufacturing units. See, in this paper you have to look at things from sociological perspective as in happening in society, and the solution must also be encouraged from the society. So I have written here, menstruation health cannot be achieved only through government efforts without addressing it as a social issue, requiring intervention at societal, community and family level. You can also include some sociological thoughts like I have written here, one is not born but rather becomes a woman. This is a quote from Simone de Beauvoir. She is a progressive feminist and she has authored many books on women-related issues. It is the society that constructs norms and puts restrictions on women and converts the biological entity into a social construct of gender. Now let's look at things from the perspective of GS paper 3. In GS paper 3, what will you talk about? You'll talk about employment, labor force, social security, economy. See, female labor force participation rate is declining. As per the data of Niti Aayog, it was 36.7% in 2004-05. In 2018, it came down to 23.7%. And it is a paradox because female labor force participation rate is declining despite higher growth, higher educational attainment among women, higher age of marriage, and declining fertility. The female labor force participation rate in rural region is 26.7% and in urban region it's around 16%. But the decline in female labor force participation rate has been higher in rural region. If you look at India's ranking in the Global Gender Gap Index, there is a sub-index in this index which is economic opportunity and participation. In this sub-index, India ranks 149 out of 153 countries. So the workplace must be made conducive for effective participation of women, and menstruation leave will be one effective step in this direction. The argument on the flip side could be that the cost of hiring women will increase and it will lead to defeminization of formal sector. When Maternity Benefit Amendment Act 2016 was passed, it was found out by survey of team lease services that around 1.1 to 1.8 million women lost their job in 2018-19 on account of implementation of this act, because maternity benefit was doubled from 3 to 6 months. The economic solution, the way ahead could be that you increase the number of paid sick leaves for both men and women. Although that will increase the cost of doing business, but still men and women will be at par. And there will be no discrimination at the recruitment level. And paid sick leaves can be viewed as an effective social security also during the menstruation period. Then in this paper you must also talk about women employed in informal sector, which constitutes 90% of women. In conclusion, you can bring the economic aspect. You can say that according to UN Women, women are the ultimate economic accelerator. They invest almost all their income in productive areas. So we need to increase the economic opportunity and participation of women, and for that, conducive environment must be created through menstruation leave among other measures. Now let us discuss the same issue from the perspective of GS paper 4. In GS paper 4, you begin from the issue of rights of individual. Then you talk about interaction of individuals with society. Then you talk about societal norms prevailing in the society. Women have right to be treated with dignity and respect. Opportunity must be given to maintain hygiene during the period of menstruation, especially in urban areas where workplace is crowded. If that opportunity is not there, then right to dignified life is not there. The issue is also about our collective social conscience. If we do not recognize this critical issue, it shows that we are ethically blind. We fail to see the emotional, physiological, psychological, hormonal suffering of women during this period. It shows that there is absence of moral compass in our society. We do not have value of empathy and compassion. Denying women menstruation leave also shows that we are in possession of wrong cognition, meaning wrong information. Some of us must believe that all women do not have pain during menstruation. But the thing is, the number of women who are in pain is immensely high. There may be some who may work comfortably during menstruation, but that does not discount for the fact that millions of women are under excruciatingly high level of pain during menstruation. Denying women menstruation leave also shows that there is lack of social influence to maintain the gender parity. See, B.R. Ambedkar has said that I measure the progress of community by the degree of the progress which women have achieved. Society cannot progress by rights of one half of society remaining unrecognized. Gandhiji has said that good of one is in good of all. If women do not progress, then child rearing will not happen effectively. Next generation will not be healthy, physically and otherwise. And in conclusion, you can quote a philosopher, you can bring a philosophy, an ethical principle, or anything of that sort. Here I have said that we must live like different cells of an organism, where health of one affects the health of others. This is a concept of society given by Plato. And women constitute 50% of cells in the body, if we see society that way. So their health, their well-being, fulfilling their physiological and psychological need is very important for a healthy society. If you combine all these perspectives of GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4, then you can write an essay on any topic. This article is from page number 7. The title is Weaker Germs, Stronger Cures. The article highlights the fact that antimicrobial resistance has emerged as a major challenge to health since last 2 decades. The advent of antibiotics created a hope that all infectious diseases from animals and humans will be eliminated. But the hope didn't come true. This article gives out the reason as to why it is difficult to counter antimicrobial resistance through novel antibiotics. And in response, the article suggests that we must adopt a policy of One Health. There are 2 reasons as to why antibiotics have not eliminated infectious diseases from humans and animals. One is the ability of microorganisms to mutate, meaning changes in their genetic coding. Antibiotics work on a particular gene coding on particular microorganisms. With the change in the code, microorganisms are not recognized and the antibiotics does not work. And this gives rise to antimicrobial resistance. The other is the irrational use of antibiotics in humans and animals. When we do not complete the dose of antibiotics, then the microorganisms become resistant to the antibiotic. Next time we fall ill, it does not work. Not only that, we have created microbes which are resistant to antibiotics, and that microbes will go into the environment and infect others. So it is not a civil wrong, it's a criminal wrong. The issue is very serious because the inability of antibiotics to treat patients is wreaking havoc on human health, nutritional safety, and on overall economy. The long-term impact of antimicrobial resistance is comparable to that of COVID-19 pandemic. Antimicrobial resistance is estimated to cause 10 million deaths annually by 2050. It is estimated to cause reduction of 7.5% of production of livestock. And it is estimated that the global GDP will be impacted by 3.5% because of antimicrobial resistance. So the issue is very serious and we have to look for solution. One of the solution is to have new drugs present in advance so that when the microbes mutate, we have the antibiotics already present. And the other is the prudent use of available antibiotics so that the efficacy of antibiotics remain for a long time. These are the 2 solutions. But practically the number of solutions will decrease by 1 because only one of them are implementable. The idea of having antibiotic present already in advance sounds brilliant. The only problem is that it is not implementable. The mutation that will happen in the germ is very difficult to predict. The whole process of developing antibiotics for the known genetic code is super expensive, and guessing the mutated form of genetic code and developing antibiotics for that will be super expensive. This you can realize by the fact that since 1984, no new class of antibiotics has been developed. The estimated cost of developing a new antibiotic exceeds $1 billion. And with rapid development of resistance, the life of any new antibiotics is very limited, and this discourages the pharmaceutical industry. So the only viable, practical, implementable solution is the prudent use of available antibiotics so that the efficacy of the antibiotic is maintained. And the prudent use will come if we have a coordinated approach. We deal with the problems in an integrated manner, and that the author is calling as One Health approach. One Health approach basically means all the problems that we have, from antimicrobial resistance to pandemics to the health issues, all of that should be looked collectively under one prism. For example, the problem of pandemic is not divorced from the problem of antimicrobial resistance. Given the fact that almost all epidemic of the current millennium, for example SARS, MERS or blood flu of COVID-19, they have originated from animals. So it is important to look at pandemics coupled with human-animal environment interface. And this problem should be looked together with the practices in hospitals, the behavior of patients while consuming antimicrobial drugs. That should be clubbed with disposal of antimicrobial drugs in environment. If applied properly, One Health can become an efficient and cost-effective response to antimicrobial resistance problem. And COVID-19 pandemic has emphasized on urgency of implementing One Health because you see the prolonged time that it's taking to come up with a new drug. India's National Action Plan on Antimicrobial Resistance is a model for One Health. But the thing is that we need to implement that. This is the lead article from page number 6, Banking Health and the K-Curve Dynamics. See, recently on the recommendation of RBI, central government decided to impose a moratorium for a period of 30 days on Lakshmi Vilas Bank. The board of directors of Lakshmi Vilas Bank has been superseded by a new one. The failure of banks and financial institutions are becoming too common these days in India. We have seen this in the episode of Yes Bank, Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank. We also have seen the unfortunate incidents of IL and FS, DHFL and other non-banking financial institutions. The author in the article has shown concern about the poor health of bank and financial institutions, and he has tried to quantify the analysis through the K-curve. We will see what this K-curve is and general recommendation for the improvement of banking and financial institutions. The author in the article has brought up the concept of price to book ratio. In order to understand the price to book ratio, first of all, we need to know the book value. Book value of any company is defined as the net asset value, meaning the total asset minus total liabilities. The asset of financial institutions are the loans that they give because they are going to get a return on that. And liabilities of financial institutions are the deposits because that has to be returned with interest. So total asset minus total liability is the book value of a financial institution. There is a term called as book value per share, which is simply the book value divided by the number of outstanding shares. For the sake of simplicity, suppose the book value of a company is rupees 100 unit and number of shares in the market are 10. Then book value per share is 10. Then the author discusses a term price by book value, and this is arrived at by dividing the price of a share by book value per share. Book value per share we have arrived at as 10. Suppose these 10 shares are priced as rupees 20. Then price by book value per share in this case is price of the share upon book value. which comes out as 2 in our case. The significance of this parameter is if price by book value per share is greater than 1, then that indicates that market believes that the bank can grow and generate higher return. And if it is less than 1, then there are not enough deposit in the bank because the bank does not instill confidence in the market. The author has done the K-curve analysis of Indian banking and financial institutions. The letter K, as you can see, has 2 arms which are diverging in nature. The K-curve depicts the inequality existing between different financial entities. And here we are talking in the context of price by book value per share. And price by total book value per share also signifies the capacity of a financial institution to grow in future. If this parameter P by BV, price upon total book value, is divergent between public sector banks and private sector banks, and is also varying among the private sector banks and public sector banks, and is also varying between banking institutions and NBFC or within NBFC, then that is a sign of inequality. Presently in India, there are banks which have P by BV ratio as greater than 4. And there are many other banks which have less than 1. There are many banks which have around 0.25. Among NBFCs, there are banks which have P by BV ratio greater than 7. The banks which have had P by BV ratio consistently greater than 1, they have capitalized the market well, they have lower NPAs, and they are growing at a faster rate because they are having greater share in the market in both in terms of asset and liabilities. The author is calling such banks as alpha banks. Among the public sector banks, it is only the largest public sector bank, SBI, that is considered as alpha bank. The condition of public sector banks are very poor. 80% of NPAs of entire banking sector comes from the public sector banks. On an average, there is 9% NPA in the entire banking sector. But for public sector bank, it is 12%. So this is how the author has quantified his concern regarding the poor health of financial and banking institutions. Now there are some general recommendations as to what can be done. First of all, there is no level playing field for private and public sector banks, and this is largely because of lack of financial, operational and personal autonomy in public sector banks. There is high level of political interference. When a PSU goes into bad health, there is a pressure from government on public sector banks to lend them, which is not a prudent financial decision, but they are coerced to take those decisions. You can talk about the recommendation of PJ Nayak committee, which you must contest. Recommendation like merger of weak banks with strong banks. A similar recommendation had come from Economic Survey 2021, which highlighted that Indian banking sector has remained dwarf in comparison to the size of Indian economy. The survey says that India's largest bank, SBI, is placed at 55th position globally. So there is more need of large size banks, or in the vocabulary of the author, alpha banks, to cater to the credit need of the 5 trillion economy that we have set a target to become. This article from page number 2 is titled Over Rupees 800 crore fund lying unutilized. A plea has brought to the notice of NGT that over Rs 800 crore of environmental relief fund that was created 29 years ago are lying unutilized. The United Insurance Company that operates the fund says that there is no information whether any amount has been utilized. Since the Ministry of Environment is the nodal ministry for the fund, NGT has directed the ministry to look into the issue and take necessary actions. The fund that we are talking about is the insurance fund under Public Liability Insurance Act 1991. This was very much in news recently after the mishappening in LG Polymers in Visakhapatnam. Under this act, a citizen can claim insurance for death or injury or property damage caused by hazardous substance handled in a factory. The need for such an insurance fund arose in the aftermath of Bhopal gas tragedy. Although it took time to develop the fund, but that was the motivation. The nodal ministry we have talked about is the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. The arrangement is such that every factory handling hazardous substance has to give an insurance premium. because there is a liability to give relief in case of an accident. You must know that the compensation is payable from the fund to which the company has paid the premium, irrespective of company's neglect. Even if there was a third party neglect, as the LG polymer was claiming, till the money will go to the citizens and the insurance premium paid by the company will be used. The disbursal of the fund happens from the office of district collector. The district collector, after an inquiry, can disperse the fund based on his discretion. The amount that he feels just will be given to the claimant. And that perhaps is the reason why the fund has remained unutilized. The fund has not been utilized, the scheme effectively has not been implemented. But there are other problems as well. The problem is that the compensation fund that was decided has not been changed ever since it was decided. And it was decided in 1991. So the compensation amount is too less. It is rupees 25,000 in case of death and maximum of rupees 12,500 for medical expenses. Similarly, for loss of wages and damage to private property, the compensation amount is too meager. So it needs to be A, updated, and B, implemented. We have come to the end of the discussion. Now we'll take question for the day. Yesterday's question was this: which of the following are bilateral Navy exercises of India? SITMEX is a trilateral exercise among Singapore, India and Thailand. SIMBEX is a bilateral exercise between India and Singapore. Indra is a bilateral exercise between India and Russia. Malabar, you would know, used to be a trilateral exercise among India, US and Japan. Now Australia will also be included in this. So answer would be option B, 2 and 3. Today's question is this: consider the following statements. Menstruation Benefit Bill was introduced in the Parliament by government in 2017 but is still pending. The second statement is Article 42 of the Constitution envisages that the state shall make provision for securing just and humane condition of work and maternity relief. Which of the above statements is correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. With this, we have come to the end of the session. Do not forget to take the DNS quiz on the eLearn platform.